Hey everyone, how are you this evening? It's another week, it's another Wednesday, and look at me. I actually am in a different place with, voila, my light set up this time. I have my husband to thank. He actually went and got it for me. I used to have it set up a long time ago when I did a lot of makeup videos and stuff like that. And then it was buried in my garage for quite some time. So yay, kudos for finally getting it out of storage to my husband. Thank you so much, because now I can go in a bunch of different places and I don't have to feel like I'm stuck in one spot anymore. And I can be in my office now and relax after class and go on the lives without feeling like I'm stuck and confined to one spot. And I hate that, because if anyone knows me, I hate feeling stuck. It is the worst feeling for me. How are you? How is everybody doing? That is a question I love to ask all the time, every single week. And it is not meant to be answered right away. It is something more for you guys to think back on, really just evaluate, right? Take a moment, think to yourself, say, where am I? What am I doing? How am I feeling? Kind of do a temperature check, right? Where were you this time last week? What were you doing? How were you feeling? And let's get into it, because these weeks just keep going faster and faster and faster, and I don't see them slowing down at all anytime soon. So buckle up, buttercup. Let's keep going and see what the week has in store for us, because they're just going to keep getting faster as time goes on. So tonight, I figured, without getting too technical into anything specific, let's talk about breaking some silence and get into some real talk about mental health, recovery, and resiliency. So I loved the way last week went when I used my computer and I put some notes in there about the topic and some key talking points for the live. It gave me a little bit of a script to follow, and I didn't really adhere to the script the entire time, but just using it to reflect back to and look down on, make sure that I highlighted some things, got into the touch points. It worked for me. So we're going to try to do that again. And I am going over here, making sure I have my stuff like always, because I do that every single time to make sure I'm set up okay. So realistically, what I wanted to do first and foremost is make sure that all the conversations that are happening on the platform, especially for the Be Unique community, are healthy conversations about not only the realness of mental health as a whole, but also what it means to overcome any of the challenges that are really happening throughout life, right? It happens on a daily basis. Stuff that is not set out and intentionally meant to break us or really set to challenge us and overcome us. It's really more something that is for us to overcome. And yes, sometimes it can be hard, and sometimes people get cracked or they break, or you hear that term, they're broken. Okay, but it's just a starting point, and you've heard me talk about that a lot if you've heard any of my lives from the past. There's no such thing as being broken permanently. There's no such thing as being down and out. It's a starting point. It always has been. The most important thing at any point in time is the health of the conversation. It's the want, it's the drive, it's that power within the connection to continue to go, to move forward. The want is always going to be so much more impactful than anything else behind it, because the tenacity, that resilience, there's nothing like it, and you can do so much with it. So that's gonna keep you in your power. That's going to continue to push you to seek the support that you need. That's going to be how we make sure that the stigma associated with mental health, the stigma associated with mental illness, because again, they're very different from each other, are not holding people back in life. We want to give not just yourself, but others too, the permission to change, to transform, to heal. Because when you start doing that, you're not only giving yourself that permission, you're showing other people it can be done. And that's giving them that permission as well to do it. You become an inspiration. Why do you think so many people love to watch things on TV that are real life stories? They love to watch those dramatic weight loss shows, right? I was just recently watching that. You don't necessarily hear all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, or even see the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. In fact, more often than not, those extreme weight loss shows that I'm talking about that I just recently watched, you more often than not don't hear, see, or even get to feel any of that stuff and that dismay, that stuff that we talk about until way far out after, when all the glitz and all the glamour and all that smoke and mirror is gone. That's all of a sudden when you start to really hear about it, right? But we're fascinated. We love to see it. We think it's such a big deal, right? We're always rooting for the one that's like going really hardcore and pushing themselves to the max and going forward. And then all of a sudden, like whoosh, they drop all this weight and they transform their body and they become this other person, and they're like, yes, look at me. I'm like this little mighty me that was under here all the time, and like whoosh, right? They're this person. It's magical. And we're like, yes, we knew you were there. Woo! Okay. But why aren't we like that in real life? Why are we only like this watching them on TV? Eating food, watching them from afar. But then we turn off the TV, go live our lives, and the person next to us is that same underdog. And we're not over there helping them. We're not rooting them on. We're not lifting them up. We don't talk about the daily struggle. We're not side by side with them. We're not the support that they need. And we're not always that inspiration. So oftentimes, the discrepancies that happen with mental health and mental illness are very invisible, but very similar to the analogy I just threw at you. So if you think about yourself, other people, like those shows, it would be a lot easier when you're out in real life living your day-to-day to practice the kindness mindset. the Be Unique community. And it goes back to the mantra we always talk about. You can be kind every single day. You can champion that mindset every single day. You can inspire someone every single day. You are resilient every single day you go out there into the world. You can be strong. You can be brave. You can be resilient. You can be healthy. You can have positive coping mechanisms. You can be that cheerleader for somebody else. You can be the inspiration for somebody else. Yes, we all have the bad days. Yes, we at times do need to fall back and have someone else take the forefront or the lead even, and have them literally say, hey, take my hand and I'll take the lead and you follow me. But again, you have to be mindful. Is the person that you're trusting in that moment positively impacting you or negatively impacting you? Is your mind in a positive state or is it a negative state? And this is exactly why this community is here for you. This is exactly why my page is public. This is exactly why I started doing these lives. It's not because I'm bored and I wanted something to do on Wednesday nights after I got done with class. It's not. I have lots of things to do and I have lots of things I can do. It's because our minds are so depleted, so empty, so filled and fueled with a narrative that's been fed to us by whatever lifestyle we grew up in. And more often than not, these personal moments that we've been faced with have really changed us. These mental shifts, these emotional challenges have really allowed a lot of people to somehow focus on, how do I go through life in my own form, living my life the way that I choose to live it, rather than highlighting the importance and the balance of just simple honesty and being okay with the fact that I don't have to have it all figured out all the time. I can simply survive by uplifting others' recovery stories or show proof that healing's possible after something bad happens, or talk about overcoming stigmas, or help make people feel less isolated in the world and less afraid to ask for help when they're going through life alone, because isolation is real nowadays, and post-COVID, more now than ever. It is so scary what's going on. So encouraging others, not just the community that's in this bubble, because the Be Unique community right now is just that. It's a bubble. It is. I don't get on here all the time and say, come on everybody, like, share, subscribe. No, I don't do that. I'm not a gimmick. I'm not a commercial. I'm a real person. It's not about that, but community is community. Life is life. Real is real. We need to stay strong. We need to share. We need to love. We need to be real. We need to be kind, and we need to be human. So not just encouraging others from the community standpoint in here, but also encouraging others in your own families, in your own lives, in your own circles outside of this community is so important, because when you're acting with empathy and not just judging each other all the time, you start to realize that these small worlds really entertain the support that we need. And all the support together starts to create these chain links that slowly but surely offer simple ways to combat stigma. And all this listening without assumption really helps others speak up. And you start to hear harmful language start to deteriorate, and normalizing therapy and broadening mental health conversations continue more and more. And we start to share just gentle phrases with each other. And we can start checking in with some simple things like, hey, how are you really feeling today? Instead of just like, hey, good morning. Hey, good afternoon. Hey, how are you? Oh, fine, thanks. Because you know the person really doesn't want to hear how you are doing, or doesn't have time to listen to what happened last night, or you feel like a burden communicating what's really on your mind. Explain what's actually expected from your process and your crisis moment, because it's going to value your growth. It's not going to diminish it. And briefly touch on like those impacts that really happened in the beginning years. Like, why did the pandemic happen and the isolation, and why did it just dissipate and disappear? And why is everyone acting like it doesn't exist anymore? Right? Why did those, I don't know, burnout sessions happen to everyone, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone and nobody talks about them anymore? Why are so many people rediscovering connections alone and not talking about what happens when the connections are actually happening? Like, these are all things I'm wondering all the time. Like, okay, let's go back in time. What happened to drones? I'll wait, because last time I checked, I think it was this time last year, they were popping up on the news all the time, and then poof, gone. Everyone stopped talking about them. These are just like little things here and there. Everyone needs to just wake up a little, become a little bit more cognizant of the fact that some things are real and some things are not. Some things are broad and some things are narrow. Some things are societal issues and some things are human issues. Some things are crises and some things are humanitarian issues that need to continuously be talked about and normalized and realized that they matter. The stories matter. The voices matter. If you ever have felt that a space is needed, that you're here for a reason, that you are showing up day after day after day, and you don't know exactly what your purpose is, but there's power behind the tenacity, you are in the right place, my friend, because that is exactly what we're here to do and what we're here to discover. And you don't have to have all the answers. That's not what the community is for. The community is here for the power that's within you, because being unique is about discovering exactly what it is when you start to become real, when you start to realize that there's integrity in being authentic, that there's no hiding what's underneath. Here's a great example, and this just happened recently. Remember, no names because I will not share names, but I had a great conversation this past week, and it was actually regarding myself. Someone told me, and I was so happy when I heard this. They said straight up, they're like, you are 100% an acquired taste. I loved it. I started laughing. I legit loved it. I was so happy, and you have no idea. I'll tell you why. I grew up from a very young age all the way up until probably, like I had told you, a lot of the people that have been watching this since the beginning and I started doing lives recently, always bending, molding, kind of like fitting and filling in grooves of whatever was missing anywhere, in a place, in a relationship, in society even, just to make sure that other people were comfortable. So much so that I lost track at one point as to who I was and what I represented. And it took so much work and so much time and so much energy and so much dedication to get back to the root of who I really was again, to rediscover who I represented and what I wanted and what I truly cared about and what I really wanted deep down. And I'm not talking about superficially, I'm talking about deep down after you sit by yourself. And we talked about all of this stuff a long time ago. And I know that my lives disappear after a certain amount of time because, let's be honest, Facebook. So I'll find another place to put them. And I know YouTube holds on to them too. So my long ones are on there and some of my short ones as well. But if anyone needs them and you don't have access to them, let me know. But this is not easy work. It's not egotistical in any way. It's authenticity. If you know yourself and you're not shape-shifting every single time you walk into a room, and you're not ego-driven, and every single time someone else comes into a room, you're changing who you are based on who that person is, that's putting in the work. That's putting in the energy. That's putting in the time. Anyone who truly knows me will tell you, I am exactly who I am. Doesn't matter who is here. I will treat the janitor the same way I will treat the CEO, the same way I will treat whomever is right in front of me. I don't care who you are. I will break bread with you the same exact way. Good, bad, or indifferent. You do me wrong, I will be just as malicious if I need to be. I don't care. I will not be nice to you just because of your title. Doesn't mean anything to me. Titles are, boom, nothing to me. They don't mean anything. Your character, your internal values, your moral compass. We've gone through all of this. The root of who you are. That's the person. Your interpersonal skill sets, your foundation. That's the stuff we work on in the Be Unique community. That's you, the whole person, the root of you. So that's the mental health portion. That's the awareness. That's the emotional integrity piece. That's what I'm talking about. So when someone sits there and says, Jasmine, you're an acquired taste. And I'm like, oh my God, I love you right now for saying that, because I have worked so incredibly hard to get back to the root of who I am as a person and discover the woman that would have protected the little girl in me who always needed that protecting, because I didn't have that. My family was no doubt my first set of bullies, sadly. And I hated for the longest time to even admit that out loud. I would break down into tears. In fact, full transparency, here comes my dog. Oh, there she is. She's scratching on the door. Boxer mix, guys. First one that like goes. For the longest time, I would get very emotional anytime I would talk about my family stuff. And we're talking about my family, my parents, my brother, all that stuff. My family, where I came from. Originally, the ones who originated me. I would get so emotional. And that's how I knew I didn't heal, right? There was a lot of healing that needed to be done there. A lot of deep, dark roots, things like that. But undoubtedly, they were my first set of bullies that I had to work through. A lot of things that I had there, a lot of darkness, a lot of ugliness, to be quite honest, and boundaries, right? I tell you guys boundaries all the time. Boundaries are a wonderful thing. And when you grow and you start to truly learn yourself, and I can help you with that. I swear I can help you with that. You can create that space where you don't feel alone and you find your voice and you almost meet your future self because you become it. And you go backwards in a sense too, because you start to heal a lot of things that were broken from beyond your control even, but it's necessary work that needs to be done, because without healing things that were undoubtedly without control from a past version of you, you're unable to move forward into a better present and an even more successful future version. And that I see more often than not a lot of people's problems in present day. It's that they're stuck, pretty much. They're stuck in this hamster wheel called life. And it's because they have these patterns that this person's the problem, or that person's the problem, or I'm doing this because I was raised this way, or I'm doing this because I was told to do it, or I'm doing this because this is all I know, or I'm doing this because of whatever this reason is. You need to be able to rediscover who you are. You need to be able to sometimes fully discover who you are. You need to be able to understand that you can burn out at any time in your life. And there is no perfect way of living a life. There is no go out there, get married, white picket fence, perfect job, perfect life, perfect society, perfect family, perfect. There's no perfect. And in fact, you find your way as things start to unravel and you start to almost, I'm finding the words, hold on. You start to trip, you start to stumble, you start to stammer through certain obstacles and kind of maneuver your way through things, because it's only in challenges that you discover what your strengths are. And here's some more food for thought. I can remember at a very young age, and I actually have one of these girls she follows me. We both won, and comments on here if you remember this, because I'm not going to shout you out at all. We both won in 7th grade a contest. It was a writing contest. It was a What Safety Means to Me contest. And we both placed in it, right? And I'll never forget. I was like, that's interesting. And I just knew I was going to get into it for some reason, right? You know when you just know something, you just have that feeling? I just knew. So I did. I won first place in it. I was in 7th grade, very young, and I was such an odd duckling in my grammar school years. I was so gawky looking. Just be honest, I'll call a spade a spade. I was. So I won first place in that. And then when you won first place in school, then you go on to like county. So I went on to county. I went up against all these contestants for writing. I won first place in that. Then you go to state. Then I won first place in state. It was in Wildwood. I was so excited. I'll never forget this moment, right? Because, and I'll tell you why I never forgot it. It's not because I won first place in state for a writing contest. I remember it because I messed up during the congratulations speech, during the thank you speech, basically. But messing up the speaking part made me remember the fact that I wanted to start perfecting speaking. I always had this very uncomfortable feeling when it came to public speaking. I hated public speaking. Hated it. Almost to the point where, you remember when you were younger and your teacher would call on you in class and you were kind of like, oh my God, like, I hope she doesn't call on me. You're always looking down and you're like trying to avoid eye contact and you're like, oh crap, she sees me. And then she picks on you anyway and you're like, wrong moment. Okay, that was always me. And then she would pick on me and I would get so nervous that I was trying to like hurry up and like pre-read whatever passage it was she was going to say. And then she would do it anyway and I would do it and I would be like so nervous with like all these eyes on me. I would like stutter as I'm reading it. Okay, that was me. Fast forward to a couple of other jobs that I had in the past. I was probably one of the best public speakers. And it's not to boast about it. It's because I allowed myself to fail and be so imperfect so many times that my ability to be imperfect actually perfected that skill set to the point where I started to be a trainer. I trained people. I started to allow them to do it and make jokes with it and fast forward into all of this and then doing makeup tutorials online during like the pandemic and all this other stuff. And like, my point is now you can put me on stage in front of hundreds of people and I don't even sweat it. I can talk, no problem. I can mess up, no problem. I can joke with someone, no problem. And again, it brings me back to that whole conversation. It doesn't matter if it's high up people. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's at a show. It doesn't matter doesn't matter what it is, because the fear has left due to the constant exposure over time. And this applies to anything else also. This applies to overcoming anything else in life. Now, take it back a few notches. Let's go back to toxicity in family and breaking some generational curses. This little girl, because in 7th grade, I still consider myself to be fairly young, right? I wasn't protected. I wasn't guided. I'll say the word straight out, I wasn't loved enough and wasn't nurtured and cared for in a way that a family and parents should have. And I'm not placing blame. Please don't get me wrong in any way, shape, or form. I have made peace with this. I've forgiven my family. They probably don't even know this because, again, it's been so long. I don't have a relationship with my family, guys. Just full transparency. No relationship. I can't even remember. It's been so many years. Probably like a good 6 years, to be quite honest. So, but again, healing, right? Healing, time, everything. And this is why I'm here, to let you guys know all this is very possible and very real. You need to be able to be your own hero. You need to be able to be your own champion. You need to be able to be the person that will be your own caretaker. You can truly become that person that overcomes anything, as long as you have that courage, that want, that desire, the drive, right? The tenacity, the same stuff we were talking about before, because I was always a very determined person. I knew what I wanted, right? I mean, it might have been off course a little bit. It might have taken me a little bit longer because of so much that was thrown at me, but I could hear no 1,000 times and pretty much look at someone and be like, you saying no to me is showing me your limitations. You're not doing anything to my limitations. You're projecting. And I feel like we need to have a whole nother live about projections, but there's something very valuable there, right? About the word no and about limitations in beliefs and ideas and values. So there's something extremely powerful in the word no and the limiting beliefs and thoughts as well, because with the word no comes the ability to supersede it with a dream, an idea, a thought, a yes, a I can do it still. So never let a no, a negative mindset, a limiting belief, or anyone else that you know in your heart of hearts, because that's where it comes from, stop you from doing what you're meant to do. Because at the end of the day, if I would have let my own family, again, my first set of bullies, because as sad as it is and as sad as it was to recognize that from a very young age, mind you, and push through that feeling and that loneliness and that sense of having to kind of understand that I would have to work on my own identity myself, really figure out who I was as a person, and know that I would most likely be on my own for the rest of my life, as really depressing as that sounds, but it's not meant to be. There's power in that too, because I would always have myself to count on, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I could ever do. And that's where I find my strength every single day. And I do it for me. And that's where the true power lies. And then I push forward even more. And then I do it for my family. And then I do it for you guys. And then I do it for everyone else. Hey, Victoria. And then that's where I continue to go forward more for the community. And then I go forward even more for everyone else, because that sense of pride and that sense of love and that sense of drive and that sense of want, it can't be shaken when you truly have that foundation that's strong. But again, people that go from anywhere other than true integrity and true sense of morals, they're going to blow with the wind, guys. You're going to see them. You're going to literally watch them go right by you because they're going to change with every single person that comes past them because they don't have that. They're not deep rooted. So you want to talk about it some more? Let's get real. And we're going to continue to do this every single Wednesday. I can come here. We can talk about what's on my mind. You can send me topics. Sometimes I get some random messages with topics. Sometimes I'm just feeling something and I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. I thought about this week. Boom. I am 100% standing in my own power and I am 100% proud of it. Yes, you're right. I am not everyone's cup of tea. You are 100% right. And if you talk to a bunch of different people, they will probably tell you they know a bunch of different versions of me. And just like that old saying goes, believe them. They probably have seen it, but ask yourself, what type of person are they? And what type of side did they bring out? So, believe them. At the end of the day, I am very deep rooted. I am very confident and I have no problem telling you anything. So let's talk about it. So let's go back and we're going to wrap it on up like we always do. We are going to be doing lots of sharing experiences. We are going to overcome lots of stigmas. We are going to definitely be going back and talking about the difference between mental health and mental illness because they are two very completely different things and we need to be aware of everything as a whole and also know that there's going to be broader health conversations as a whole as we go forward. So what you need to know is it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, your story is always going to matter. At the end of the day, I am here for you, no matter what. My link is in my bio. It could be up there right now. It could be down here. I don't know where it's showing for you, but it's somewhere. And if you ever feel like giving up, never. You are still here for a reason, so I want you to keep showing up for no one other than you. Create that space, okay? Be unique. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.